Okay, it's 7 o'clock, and I will call the meeting to order. Good evening. This is Tiger Plain Commission public hearing. Today is January 25th, 2021. Doreen, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. President Hu?
Here.
Vice President Jackson?
Present.
Commissioner Brooke?
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Dick?
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Miranda?
Here. Sorry.
Okay. Commissioner Quinones?
Present.
Commissioner Roberts? Commissioner Shook?
Here.
Commissioner K7?
Here.
Commissioner Watson? I know she was trying to get in. She needs to have a link sent to her. I'll send that to her. So she should be here. And then Commissioner Whitehurst. Commissioner Whitehurst? Okay.
I believe Commissioner Roberts just joined us.
See Commissioner Roberts, okay.
All right, thank you, Doreen. Next item on agenda is communications. Anyone went to any meetings, have any communications?
Yes. Hello. We have a new council liaison, and City Councilor Shaw is with us tonight.
Hello, welcome.
He'll be sitting in on the meeting tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to listening and appreciate it and looking forward to it. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
And I see Commissioner Jackson has something to report. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the River Terrace 2.0 CIC met again since our last meeting. Again, mostly just going over some of the early concept ideas. Also wanted to just put in a quick plug that I believe the comment period is still open on the city website for anyone who wants to go and take a look and see what we have so far and put their 2 cents in.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Anybody else? Okay, I see none. So let's go on to the next item. It's a consideration of minutes. Anyone has any comments, deletions, corrections, additions? I see none, so I will sign it and give it to you, Doreen. All right, thank you. All right, let's start the public hearing. I will start the public hearing. So let me read some statement. So today's case is the applicant is Walter Aman, and the case number is CPA 2020-0001 and ZON 2020-00001. And the applicant is requesting a comprehensive plan map amendment from general commercial and medium density residential to general commercial and medium high density residential. The applicant is also requesting a zone map amendment from general commercial and R12 to a general commercial and R25. So I have some required statement that I need to read. So the applicable substantive criteria are those listed on page 2 of the staff report. And testimony and evidence must be directed toward the applicable substantive criteria listed on page 2 of the staff report, or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or land use regulation that are believed to apply to the decision. So we are making a recommendation to the city council. So I guess the land use board is not applicable in this case. So here are some procedural items. So do any commission members wish to abstain or declare a conflict of interest? I see none. Does anyone in the audience wish to challenge any member of the Planning Commission for bias or conflict of interest? I see none. Does any commission member wish to report any ex parte contact, any oral or written communication about the case with person other than city staff or city attorney? I see none. Has any commission member visited the site of the proposal? I see Commissioner Jackson. Anybody else?
I have.
Commissioner Roberts and Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Anybody else? Okay, so we have those commissioners who have visited the site. Okay, does anyone in the audience wish to challenge the jurisdiction of the commission? I see none. So I would like to give a brief description of how the hearing will proceed. First, the staff will give their staff report. Then the applicant will make their presentation. After that, we will take public testimony. And I don't know if those in favor will go first, but those who wish to speak will have an opportunity to speak. So first, I would like to introduce staff member, Associate Planner Agnes Lindor, to give us the staff presentation. So Agnes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Agnes Lindor, Associate Planner. I am going to go ahead and share my screen here. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so again, the item on tonight's agenda is the Amman Comprehensive Plan and Zoning Map Amendment. The subject site is located here. It's off of Pacific Highway. This is where Fred Meyer is located. It's kind of on the north end of town. The official address is 11655 Southwest Pacific Highway. The site is made up of 3 lots, totaling 5.36 acres. Lot 2 and 3, which is this area south of Torchwood, currently contains an RV rental business, and lot 1, just north of Torchwood, is currently vacant. So the existing comprehensive plan designations on the site are general commercial, which is lot 3, and medium density residential, which is made up of lot 1 and 2. And the zoning is CG for lot 3 and R12 for lot 1 and 2. As far as the surrounding area, so everything in red is the general commercial zone along Pacific Highway here. So it's currently has commercial businesses. To the west and east is both R12. To the west is single detached house development and apartments. To the west is apartments. To the east is single detached homes. And to the north is R25 zoning and a condominium complex. So the proposed applications are a comprehensive plan map amendment, which would change, the designations would change from commercial general and medium density residential to commercial general and medium high density residential. And the map amendment would change the zoning from CG and R12 to CG and R25. So this graphic just kind of provides a better display of the existing comprehensive plan designations, which are, again, lot 1 and 2 is the medium density and lot 3 is general commercial. And what is being proposed is medium high density for lot 1, general commercial for lot 2, and there's no change proposed for lot 3. It's currently general commercial. And then for the zoning map amendment, the existing zoning is R12 on lot 1 and 2 and CG on lot 3. And the proposal is R25 for lot 1, CG for lot 2, and no change for lot 3, which is existing CG zoning. Because the residential acreage is shrinking, but moving to a higher density, there still only is a net increase in density of only 4 units. I did want to mention that since the time that the report was written, there were a few additional public comments that have come in via email. I believe Doreen has forwarded those on this morning. And I also did have a phone conversation with Miss Catherine Davidson last week, talking to her about the application and also her concerns regarding traffic. So as described in the staff report, the proposal has demonstrated compliance with the applicable comprehensive plan policies and map designations, and there's adequate public facilities to serve the property at the intensity of the proposed zoning. So with that, staff has reviewed the proposed plans and recommendations and proposed plans and recommends approval of the comprehensive plan map and zoning map amendment. And this concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Agnes? All right, so Commissioner Jackson, go ahead.
I have kind of a clump of questions around some of the roads in that area. So if someone else wants to go first, by all means, do so.
You're the only one who raised his hand, so go ahead.
So in a lot of the exhibits, the proposed dividing line between the commercial and higher density residential area, I was curious why it's non-rectilinear and why it kind of already assumes that there's going to be a road along it. Is that the only feasible path of a road through that area?
Jeremy, do you want to respond?
Sure, Jeremy Tamargo, engineer with the city's development group. Can you repeat your question one more time, if you don't mind?
I was curious why for this zoning change, why the exhibits show kind of a proposed route of a potential road through the area, and that it follows a non-rectilinear route for this zone change. And if there was
right. So as part of the partition application from the applicant, that was what triggered the extension of Torchwood through from the east to the west there along the development frontage. So that's why you're seeing that as the dividing line. And the reasoning behind that is in order for the partition to have occurred, each of the lots needed frontage along a public right-of-way.
Okay, that makes sense. Maybe an unnecessary question, but I was just curious, I'm assuming that 76th, I believe, Avenue, that's slightly to the west of 74th, ends at that condo complex and could not extend through. Is that accurate? Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Jackson, this is Tom McGuire. For the audience, Assistant Community Development Director, and I wanted to add a little bit to Jeremy's comments. Torchwood is a stub street there. If you look at the general zoning map, you'll see it's a stub street, and just a reminder to the commission, when the city or the county, for that matter, have stub streets, the expectation is that that street will carry through at that location when the next development comes along. If we are not going to have a street prepared to go through, then we end them in a cul-de-sac. So just wanted to point out that as well for your information.
So to add on to that, if I may, the idea would be that in the long term, eventually Torchwood would connect to 78th.
Yes, that's
beyond Hawthorne Villas. Okay,
correct. That property ever redeveloped some. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so we have Commissioner Miranda. Do you have a question?
This kind of goes along with the same thing about Torchwood. In the TVFR, a dead-ended street would need a turnaround, and I didn't see that that was part of the application, and wanted to know if the math on developing the units included the lot coverage of needing the turnaround. I didn't know if that would make an impact on how many units would be on the site if you had to include a turnaround for fire, because they can't back out of that lot. It's too big.
Agnes, you want me to speak to this first, or?
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, so to answer that question, so we haven't seen an actual development proposal for the residential development that'll be to the north of Torchwood there, but yes, all of the requirements for TVF&R would have to be met at the time of the development application for that residential section. There's a number of different options that can be used to meet those requirements, whether it be a turnaround or sprinkling of the units. So at this time, because we don't have a development application for those lots, I can't really comment on what the actual proposal will be, but those requirements will have to be met with a development proposal.
Thank you.
And to answer the question about density, if there's additional right-of-way that is required to be dedicated in order to meet fire requirements, that portion would be taken out of the developable area. But if it's just, like a circular driveway that goes around the building, that wouldn't get subtracted out of the area to do the density calculations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? So okay, Commissioner Jackson, go ahead.
You can go ahead first. I don't mind.
Okay. So the previous version of the staff report saying that there will only be a net gain of 1 density unit, but this version says there will be a net gain of 4. So what changed? How come it went from 1 to 4 right now?
So I think before, the way that it was being calculated was, I guess I'll back up a little bit. So since we met last time, we put this application on hold, and the applicant wanted to do the partition first. And once we figured out the configuration of the road, where it would actually go, we were able to subtract that from the density. So I believe that the lot was a little bit larger after we determined the square footage based on the new configuration of the partition.
Oh, okay. And just to confirm that the only way to get in and out of lot 1 is through Torchwood and 74th. Is that my understanding? Is that correct?
The access, I believe, will be from Torchwood for lot 1. Lot 2 and 3 will only have access on Pacific Highway. And that's part of it's going to be recorded on the plat with the partition plat that lot 2 cannot have access off of Torchwood.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jackson.
You actually answered one of my questions, but I had another quick one. The trip cap, I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about how that's enforced. Is that just enforced when the land is developed, or?
I believe so, yes. So on lot 2, the trip cap, the way that it works, and Jeremy, you can jump in here, is when they come in for development, we would look at what's being proposed and what the trips would be generated from that development. And if it exceeds that threshold of the trip cap, then they would be required to pay either a proportional share towards improvements that are required along Pacific Highway, or make additional improvements to make sure that those intersections and intersections aren't any worse off than they were pre-development.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner, any more questions for Agnes? I see none, so okay. So now we will move on to the applicant's presentation. At this time, I ask the applicant to present your case. Please state your name and title, and please limit your presentation to 20 minutes. Please go ahead.
Great. Thank you, commissioners, and I appreciate your time this evening. My name is Alex Dupy. I'm with MIG. We're a consulting firm based in Portland. I'm the director of planning services with that firm. So let me go ahead and share my slide. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Perfect. Get reorganized here just for a bit so I can see everybody. So I'll spend just a few minutes, and rather than repeating what Agnes had shown, I want to talk just briefly about the transportation planning rule transportation analysis, which was actually the origin of the trip cap that Commissioner Jackson, you were just asking about. And I think the questions around that, there's been a lot of questions from the community about traffic and transportation, and with a comprehensive plan map and zone change, the requirement is that we meet transportation planning rule requirements, which are an Oregon administrative rule, and that is a higher level of analysis than what you would see with an actual development proposal. So if development on approval of this application, if development were to occur, then you would see more the typical traffic impact analysis with specific development proposed and assessed or analyzed through that process. So what I'm going to step through is just the transportation planning rule components of that. And again, just as a reminder, we are looking at the same site. It's the parcel that Agnes had described earlier on. And with the transportation planning rule, those are laid out in Oregon Administrative Rules 660.012.0060, and that specifically looks at traffic assessments for zone changes. And what the transportation planning rule requirements for analysis look at is what is the potential vehicle trips based on the existing zoning, and then what the proposed zoning is. And what we're looking at is that change between what the existing zoning would essentially, create if a maximum amount of development were assumed on that parcel, compared to what a reasonable worst case scenario might be if the parcel were developed with the new zoning. And then looking at specific performance measures or caps, if you will, of how to manage that additional traffic if there is any. So we looked at that, and we stepped through the transportation planning requirements. Again, as Agnes stated, we are looking at essentially rezoning one parcel or portion of a parcel from R12 to general commercial, and then another R12 parcel to R25. So the net increase in density for residential units is pretty small. It's just 4 units, but it's really looking at that change between the zone change of today versus what's proposed. In terms of trip generation, when you do traffic analysis, there's a number of assumptions that you put into what the types of trips that might be, essentially developed as a part of, either future development or what currently exists today. And kind of the industry standard is the transportation engineers, international transportation engineers, trip generation rates for similar uses on the sites. And the ITE land uses are not necessarily what is actual development, what that could be proposed. When ODOT looks at traffic, particularly for this application, because there's no development proposed, they look at what the reasonable worst case might be. So for general commercial, in this case, it might be a fast food restaurant or a coffee shop. Whether or not that's actually what will be developed, it's really the worst case potential for traffic. And so they look at that as a way to judge what the impact might be on the system. And so we developed those rates and looked at that. And we also looked at 4 specific intersections adjacent to the site, 72nd Avenue and Dartmouth Street along Highway 99, and then the northbound and southbound ramps for Oregon 217 at Highway 99. And we looked at both the AM and the PM peak hours. And what we saw from the analysis is that there is a small increase going just above the mobility targets for ODOT for the on ramps in the AM, and then one of the on ramps in the PM for Highway 217. Dartmouth and 72nd still meet mobility targets for those intersections, even with the zone change. But what's triggering that trip cap is really the going from, for example, on the Oregon 99 Highway 217 northbound ramp from 0.94 volume to capacity to 0.95 volume to capacity. That small amount of change is considered an impact by ODOT standards. And so that's where we're seeing this trip cap recommendation come through, because by bringing that trip cap into the plan itself, it actually keeps us so that we are meeting ODOT's standards for transportation planning rule. So just in terms of findings from the traffic analysis, and you see in the conditions of approval that are recommended for the trip cap, Oregon 99 at Southwest 72nd Avenue and Southwest Dartmouth, they meet TPR requirements under the proposed zoning. The 2 intersections at 3 different times for the on-ramps for Oregon 99 and Highway 217 slightly exceed those. And so that is where the trip cap is proposed for Lot 2, which is that lot kind of in the middle next to the Torchwood extension, to essentially make sure that we are staying below the transportation planning rule requirements. And so with that, as I said, if development is proposed in the future, there will be additional, more specific, detailed traffic analysis as a part of that application. But for now, in terms of the zoning and comprehensive plan, we do meet those both local and state requirements for transportation planning. And with that, that is it. So thank you for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Alex. And Commissioner, do we have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner K7, please go ahead.
Hey, hi. A small clarifying question. As part of this traffic analysis, do you also take into account some of the parking spaces potentially the residential people could be using along the way, for example, on Torchwood, etc.? Is that considered also?
No, parking is not part of this specific analysis. That would be as a development application is proposed, then we would start to get into parking analysis. This is really about what trip generation might be at more of a macro scale. So how does that affect specific intersections, the on and off ramps for 217? But parking, for example, would definitely be something that would be looked at through the development application if one were to come forward in the future.
Yeah, maybe I didn't make myself very clear. So given that there are already pre-existing housing in that area, people might be utilizing the Torchwood Street to park their cars on either side. So given that the pass-through of either commercial vehicles and other vehicles because of this new zoning, is there an impact to that was my question, more than more parking spaces?
From a traffic standpoint, at this scale, that this traffic analysis wouldn't look at that. It would just look at the trips proposed from that new development, or that could be accommodated with the proposed zoning. So in terms of pass-through trips, we account for that within TPR, but it doesn't account for parking adjacent.
I see. Thank you.
Anybody else, Commissioner? Okay, I see none. So we're going to move on to the public testimony. Keelan, do we have any callers?
Yes, looks like right now we have 3 callers. I will pass the first one in, who is neutral on the proposal.
Okay, so let me read the statement first, and we will ask them to come on one by one.
Okay.
So for public testimony, speakers will be timed and limited to 3 minutes. Your time will begin after you clearly state your name and address. And Doreen will let you know when I think you have 30 seconds left. So since we only have three callers, we can try to be more flexible, but try to limit your comment to 3 minutes. All right, can we have the first caller, please?
All right, here is the caller. All right, caller, can you please state your name and address? This is
Yes, my name is Angela Swenson, and I live at 11074 Southwest Legacy Oak Way.
Angela, can you spell your last name, please?
Swenson, Swensen.
Okay, please go ahead, Angela.
So we live in the neighborhood directly to the east of the developed land on Legacy Oak Way, which is a one-way private street. And I know I've spoken with Agnes about this, and I just think it's something that I think it's really important to share, that what is causing a huge disturbance to our community is that Torchwood, essentially, from where it would be pushed through, like I said, Legacy Oak is one way. So if you look at the plat map, you can see that Torchwood actually narrows down to basically to one lane, and there's parking on Torchwood as well. And right now, because people enter at the very end where Torchwood ends.
I just want to verify your name and address.
My name?
Keelan, we can hear you. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, we just got that.
Go ahead, Angela.
Okay. So basically, it's one way, and the other issue is that there's no parking on Legacy Oak Way because it is a private street, and it's a very narrow street, and our garages were built that they do not fit a full-size car. So all of our neighborhood has to park at least one vehicle out on Torchwood, and it's a one-way street. There is no way right now that you could have 2 cars pass to even get over to that other side of Torchwood, whether it's commercial, residential. It's not safe. And it's an issue for us because we cannot lose the parking that we have on the street. And so I know that this is something that's probably going to come up, but I know that this is not going to be in a public forum. That is a big, significant concern for our community and the change that it would have to us, because first of all, there's just too many, we can't handle having cars basically go down a one-way street. I don't know how to explain that anymore because I can't see what's happening right now. But I don't know if there's anything that we can do, and as we move further along in this process, to talk about safety, but also the road when you come down 74th, it makes a very sharp right turn onto Torchwood, and is very hard for even 2 cars to pass. So you can just imagine our community, how we're feeling about, understand that we want to expand and grow in Tigard. Happy to support that. We just want to do it safely in a way that can accommodate our community.
Thank you. That's exactly 3 minutes. So Agnes or Alex, would you like to respond?
Agnes, would you like me to start, or did you want to respond?
Well, I was gonna, I've spoken with Angela about this project, and we did talk about specifically, street improvements that would be triggered with development. I know that part of the concern, and maybe Jeremy can speak a little bit more about this, is really the some of the lots that are along Torchwood have not been developed, and so they don't, that road, there's portions of it that doesn't meet the required street width as required by our code. So I guess when we get the development application, Jeremy, would this be something that we would be looking at?
Yes, correct. This would be something that would be addressed once we have a development application for that residential lot 1. Correct.
Okay. So I don't know if Angela is still on the line, but I forget to ask if the commissioner have any questions for Angela. I guess not. So,
I am on the line.
oh, you okay? So, Commissioner, do you have any questions for Angela? No, I see none. Okay, so yeah, so we will discuss this more further, but let's move on to the. Thank you, Angela, for your call. Keelan, can we move on to the next caller, please?
Yes, the next caller is going to be Catherine. I'm passing her in now, and she is against the proposal.
Hi, Catherine. Would you please state your name and address and spell your last name, please?
Sure. It's Catherine Davidson, and my address is 7577 Southwest Torchwood Street, and my last name is spelled Davidson.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes. Please go ahead.
Yeah, and I want to start by just saying thank you to Agnes, who's been really great at walking us all through this process. I think that I wanted to go on record today to express concerns because it has been a little bit of a confusing process, and we just want to make sure that our priorities as a community of safety and definitely traffic and parking are rolled into that as well, are heard at the right time in the process and not miss an opportunity. So I think I'll start also by thanking Roberts, Watson, and Jackson commissioners for coming to visit. I think that's really important because what we're talking about really is the entry from 74th turning into Torchwood. And of course, the parking on that street has an impact as well. So when we talk about 4 additional units with this rezoning being allowed if Torchwood was punched through, that seems negligible, but when you're talking about more than doubling, even as it's zoned today, the number of residences on Torchwood is pretty significant and has a really significant impact on the community. So I have a couple questions. I'll end with those just to make sure I get my 3 minutes if I need it. But I wanted to, again, touch on the safety piece as well, because with that, well, let me take a step back. Some of the initial questions about what was going to happen when Torchwood was punched through and if there was going to be, how people were going to turn around, that's not necessarily the big concern, because I think what you're missing in a lot of the maps that are presented is, again, that access from 74th into Torchwood. So I think Angela did a really good job of explaining sort of the parking situations. And again, I just want to reiterate that we really respect the strategic priorities of this planning commission and really support the continued growth and development of Tigard. It's just, we also believe that this commission also prioritizes safety, and that's our biggest concern. And so my questions for the commission is, one, I wanted to loop back on something that was said earlier, that Torchwood could eventually connect through 78th. I want to just loop back. I don't recall the gentleman's name that said that, but I want to check in on that because we haven't necessarily heard that before, and I think that's very, very future state. So I don't want that to be at all. I don't want to be confused by thinking that's part at all of what we're talking about today. Second, we talk about the street improvements and those being considered in the proposal for development. So I want to ask the question if you have any ideas of what those street improvements could be. And if not, I just at least want to go on record for saying it again, not to miss an opportunity to advocate that is incredibly important for this area. And Angela already covered my question about parking, so I think I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Before you go, Commissioner, do we have any questions for Catherine? No, I just see none. So, Agnes, do you want to comment or?
Yeah, so I can speak to the future extension of Torchwood. Know that at this time, that's not something that is being proposed. It would be at a later time when the adjacent property to the west redevelops, and then the houses behind that property eventually redevelop. That's when that connection would potentially occur. As far as the improvements for what would be required for Torchwood, I would probably defer that question to Jeremy.
Sure. So for, I guess, two pieces of it. So for the parcel itself, so the proposed development site, it would be the full local street section that is required by our code on the property itself. And then a number of the comments were related to the existing section of Torchwood. So within our streets section of code 18.9.10, there are sections where the applicant, when they come in for their development for the residential section, would have to address both in terms of the traffic study, as well as if there were any off-site traffic calming measures that would be necessary. Due to the existing development, there is a less than standard section of Torchwood that was alluded to between the two sections of Southwest Legacy Oak Way there. So as part of the development application, they would have to address whether the development would cause any negative impacts on the existing street section. And if that was the case, there are measures that could be necessary to implement, such as traffic calming or other measures as deemed appropriate by engineering staff at the time of the application. But again, that would be once a development application for that residential development actually came into the city.
And Jeremy, if I might add, I think a lot of the concern around this is that there isn't really a development application with this application. So what the future of this area is, I think there's a lot of questions around that, and understandably so. With the development application, whatever that may be, there are additional opportunities for people to provide input for for those concerns, whether it's parking, access along Torchwood, how the site is established from landscaping and other access requirements. Those are all pieces that would be developed as a part of the application itself for the development, and that's not necessarily germane to this application of the comprehensive plan and zone change. So there's two kind of layers to this, and this is just the first of a couple.
Thank you. All right, so that's thank you again, Catherine. So let's move on to the next one, Keelan.
Certainly. The next one is going to be Jim Long. He also is against the proposal.
All right. Hello, Jim. Please state your address and spell your last name, please.
My name's Jim Long, L-O-N-G. My address is 10655 Southwest Hall Boulevard, Tigard, Oregon 97223.
Thank you.
I'm
You have
chair of CPO4M. Beg pardon?
Go ahead. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to comment, but I've been having a great bit of difficulty accessing this public hearing. I started before 7 to try and get online, and it wasn't until just right at 7:30 that I actually did get connected by phone here, and I can actually see see the 3 images on the screen that I see right now. So I missed the presentation, I missed the introduction, I missed the discussion. And I don't know how many other people were the same way, but my difficulty was in the link for the virtual, to connect with this virtual public meeting. I went to the website, I clicked on a number of things, and then at 7:15, 7:30, or 7:20, maybe I called in the phone number, and I was given some directions as to how to get to it. And as it turns out, there's a spot between when it comes up, it says it's off the air, and it's kind of discouraging for people to try and get on. And I went through it a few times and kept saying off air. So I was told to click between the 2 words off and air. And yes, that did link me to this link, so I'm able to see your presentation. But I've missed a lot of it, and there may be other people out there who've also missed parts of this. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk, and I respect what your folks are doing. But because of these difficulties, and indeed, I was ready to testify and listen in back in the summer when there was this whole thing was delayed because of the smoke damage that was happening. Anyway, so at this point, I don't know whether you're planning on making a decision tonight on this comprehensive plan amendment, but at this point, for CPO4M, we would ask for a continuance. We would like to see another hearing on this so that we can actually get the proper links and people can access and actually hear what you're planning to do. This is more. There's more coming out tonight than I've been able to get in the past, and we would like to actually be able to have a full-blown ability to comment on what the plans are. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try and answer them. And the other thing is, I agree with the comments of other people that safety is important and traffic's important, and it seems like there are a lot of unanswered questions. Now, I remember when the whole Legacy Oaks development was happening years ago, and I made a comment about it seemed like there was some difficulties with ADA, the American Disabilities Act. And indeed, when I go walking around that one-way street, I can't walk on the sidewalk because there are cars parked in the driveway, and the driveway goes right into the sidewalk. So it's not safe for people if they have some ADA issues. They would have to be going out into the street to get around and to do around the circle. So there's some difficulties here and some unanswered questions. And I hope you're able to do a continuance so we can get some more input into this. Thank you.
Thank you. That's 3 minutes. Commissioners, do you have any question for Jim? So, Keelan, go ahead.
Commissioner Hill, I would just like to ask a follow-up question to Jim. I know the technical difficulties is really frustrating, so I wanted to know, is there any question, any additional comment that you had that you weren't able to share because of the 3-minute limit?
Jim, do you have?
I would have put some together, but I really wanted to convey the fact that it's been frustrating the system here, the inability to hear the previous the presentation to lead up to this point where the public comment was accepted. So because of that, I'm unable to give you more specifics at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Roberts.
Yeah, just quickly, Jim, did CPO4M have any discussion about this? And are you able to relay, what the mood or the sentiment was within that meeting, or has that not happened yet?
No, we're meeting on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. We have a virtual Zoom meeting Wednesday night where this is one of the many issues on the agenda, and we will be talking about the density and the increase in density that's being proposed here, and the partitions. So we will be talking about it at that time. We can bring it back the next time you have this scheduled for an opportunity to provide some input.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Quinones.
Yeah, my question is there any way we can add that organization that Jim is representing as a part of the list Doreen has of who was testifying, like have both be represented as being heard as part of the community?
So are you saying we should have Jim as a representative from that organization when, as noted in our minutes? Is that?
Yeah, like in the minutes, like he spoke, but there's also representation as part of a larger organization that, has missed out. Is there a way to have that on record?
I'm sure Doreen will be able to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Doreen.
Thank you. Commissioner Watson, you have a question for Jim?
Oh, not for Jim, sorry.
Oh, okay.
It was more of it's more about, well, I'll just ask it. It seems like Torchwood is non-conforming, and the property owner for the property in question, for the zoning change, it doesn't sound like it's their fault. And I'm wondering, like if there are corrections that need to be made to Torchwood in order to make it work, how would that sausage be made?
We are still in the middle of public testimony, so we should wait to discuss that later on. So right now, I'm just asking if anybody has any question for Jim. Okay, I see none.
I guess I have a question if I'm allowed to ask Jim a question.
Go ahead, Tom.
Jim, I guess I really want to know the exact reasons for your wanting a continuance. So you've made it into the hearing now. Everybody's here. We can go back and show you any graphic that was shown previously. You have presumably a copy of the staff report. Agnes presented a summary of that. Alex summarized how they responded to the transportation planning rule. That was in the applicant's application. And then we had a couple of neighbors testify on some specific issues. So that's really about all that's happened in the hearing so far. I feel like if you have questions about, I'm really sorry that you missed it, and I'm sorry for the confusion with the, I will confess I have not tried to call in as a neighbor would, but so I'm not sure exactly of the steps that you're talking about, but I'm sorry that it took so long for you to get in. But I want to try, I just think that since everybody's here and we're talking about this application, if you have specific questions, we can answer those. If you have specific questions about what you may have missed in the early part of the hearing, I think we can answer that. I'm trying to find out if a specific reason for a continuance, because even if we continue this, it's not going to be a do-over. It's not like we're going to start over and with all the presentations again. So is there a specific set of questions or issues that you need additional information on?
Yes, I mean I understand we're in the pandemic and the virtual. I can't. Am I being heard now? I can't tell.
Yes.
It looks like you're still speaking, Tom.
We're hearing.
We can.
Yeah, Jim, if you're watching there's a slight delay on the webcast.
Okay. Well, like I say, first of all, I want to clarify. I am very computer literate. I had computers up at the World's Fair back 30 years ago, so it's not an issue of my not knowing how to use a computer. It's that the links were not working. The links were not up to snuff. They're not up to the grade that I've seen with other jurisdictions, and because of that, I wasn't able to get on, and I don't know how many other people weren't able to get on and were frustrated by it because it just isn't working as other links I've done for other, whether it's the county or other jurisdictions, it's just not working properly. So because of that, we weren't able to hear it. Now, I guess I could go back, and if this is recorded, I could go through TBC TV and see the beginning of the presentation for the next time. But I don't know everything that was presented, and it's tough for me to comment on what was presented because I didn't hear it. So that's why I'm just asking for a simple continuance. I don't know that there's a rush to do this thing, but let's get it right. I mean, I know we're in this pandemic and it's a virtual reality, but it seems pretty simple to just reschedule the thing. You rescheduled it before, and now we've got the problem with the links. So I'll be asking at our CPO meeting if other people had the same difficulty, but we'll also be formulating some more opinions and presentation to submit some comments to you at the CPO meeting. So do I have specific questions? I don't know that I have specific questions because I didn't hear what was presented and how it was presented and the feeling with which it was presented. I did hear the comments from the two people who testified before me, and they had some serious comments about safety and traffic and other things. And I'm interested in them and looking more at some of the issues that they brought up. But I'm familiar with this Legacy Oaks development. Like I say, it's a difficult thing. It's very tightly put together, and I don't think it actually meets ADA code as it is. So I would like to look at it further and like to have our CPO discuss it in an open forum or two and be able to get back to you folks. Any questions?
I think we have, Tom, do you have any more questions? If not, I will ask Commissioner Miranda. She has her hands up.
No, I don't have. I think I understand what his request for continuance is for. Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify how and when you learned of this particular meeting, sir. If we have contacted you directly or if you found out about this planning meeting otherwise. That helps me understand why CPO 4M hasn't come prepared with comments as you meet monthly.
We have been, as the community participation organization for this area, we did get notification early on. We did want to testify back last summer when the hearing was canceled due to smoke-related issues. So my point here tonight, though, is the fact that the links weren't working. I was not able to see, and other people perhaps were not able to see what the presentation was. This is new. To see it being vocally presented versus what is on paper is different. So yes, we get notification of these meetings.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And when I went today to the City of Tigard website to check out the link to get connected with it, it wasn't working. So that's my point, and that's why I'm asking for continuance so that we could present, so that we can formulate some more comments about this issue and about some of the other issues that the other testifiers have brought up today.
Okay. Any commissioner, any other question for Jim? Okay, I see none. Well, thank you, Jim. We will consider your request. Keelan, do we have any more callers?
Yes, we have one more caller. We have Jeff Sieber.
Jeff Sieber. All right, Jeff, please spell your last name and your address, please.
Sure, Jeff Sieber, S-E-E, B as in boy, E-R. I'm at 10885 Southwest 74th.
All right, thank you. You have 3 minutes. Please go ahead.
Well, I was curious about the traffic issue being close to the trip monitor or too much traffic off of 217. And of course, with the parking, as they're building units like they did on Oak west of Hall, and then they're building more units on 74th east of Winco Foods. Was that calculated into the trip coordination for Highway 99 at all? Because that seems to me that that would put that over the top for having the density change. That was my question. And then the other question is, if you're going to have construction going on, how are you going to get the vehicles in without causing traffic delays and traffic problems in the morning and in the evening, without forcing that traffic onto Torchwood, which is already an issue with traffic and parking, as vehicles at night is difficult to maneuver down Torchwood due to the lack of parking. So that seems to me that it would cause a massive inconvenience and not safe. Those are my two questions.
Okay. Before I direct your question to staff, may I ask, are you watching us on the web right now?
Yes, sir, I am.
Do you have problem getting to? Do you have problem watching it at the beginning or?
At the beginning, I had a little bit of a problem, but I just used the big hammer in the corner and it worked fine.
Okay, so you were able to watch the entire meeting from the beginning.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so commissioners, before we direct Jeff's questions to our staff, do you have any question for Jeff? No. Okay, so Agnes or Jeremy, do you want to respond to Jeff's question?
Jeremy, do you want to speak to the TPR?
So I think Alex would probably be the one to kick it off, since they perform the TPR analysis, and then I could jump in if as necessary.
Sure. So regarding the trip generation, so the model uses essentially the same. When we were looking at the zone changes, essentially looking at reasonable worst case scenario for development, throughout the system. So when we look at those developments that you identified in your comments, that type of use is already incorporated into the model. So the trips that are assumed for that type of development are incorporated into that specific model. And so when we look at the change as a part of this development from a zoning and comprehensive plan standpoint, we're looking at just that delta between existing versus proposed. So what would that difference be? And that's where you see that slight increase at the Oregon 99 Highway 217 on ramps. And so that's why the trip cap comes in, is to essentially manage that traffic from the comprehensive plan map and zone change. So the development you identified, that is incorporated into the model. It does incorporate into the overall trips within the area. Regarding the construction impacts, that is definitely something that would be considered as a part of a development application. And that's what I was saying earlier, is that this application is only for the comprehensive plan and zone change. When there is development proposed, then those types of impacts or questions that you have specifically about parking, trip generation, traffic, construction, those are all things that will be addressed as a part of that very specific development application review, which is not part of this application tonight.
I think, Jeff, you still have a few more minutes. Do you have any follow-up questions?
My question was, with the density going up, does that identify what type of density? Is it apartment complexes, condos, the tiny small houses on the small lots?
Do you want me to take that, Agnes, or do you want me to?
Sure, I can take it. So the density that the way that the density was calculated was based on apartment development.
Anything else, Jeff?
No, thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for calling in. We really appreciate your comments as well. Keelan, do we have anybody else?
No, there are no more callers.
All right, thank you very much. So before I close the presentation and the comment section, I believe Commissioner Watson, do you have a question for the staff?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is not responsible for Torchwood and its issues with conformity, correct? So I guess, but we need to acknowledge the fact that it does have issues. How would that normally be resolved? And I realize that it would be further along in the design process and all of that, but just in terms of responsibility, in terms of improvements to Torchwood to make things work, how would that come out in the wash?
So this is Jeremy. So in our code section 18.9.10 for streets, there are a number of sections that deal with kind of the traffic impacts. Specifically, I'm looking at section BB, which talks about traffic calming. And so there, even if it's off-site, if there are going to be negative impacts to the existing neighborhood streets, then at that time of the development application, it would be assessed whether providing traffic calming measures would be appropriate for the off-site Torchwood section. So that would probably be the most applicable section of code relating to that question.
So just to make sure I'm following, would the applicant be responsible for those upgrades, or?
Correct, yes. So again, the applicant for the actual development application, that would be for that residential lot, the lot 1, that would have to be addressed in their land use application, that section of code. And if it was deemed applicable, in this case, the traffic calming section is in the opinion of the city engineer. So if it's determined by the city engineer that that would have a negative impact on the existing neighborhood street, it would be on the responsibility of the applicant to provide those traffic calming measures, or, you know, a fee in lieu funding for those measures for the offsite improvements. But again, that would be with the development application at the time that that's submitted, not at the time that we're talking now for the plan amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Book.
Yes, thank you. So I thought I understood where all the streets were going to go, but after hearing the public comments, I just want to make sure that I'm on the same page as everybody else. So my question specifically is about parcel 2. So Agnes, I remember you mentioned that there was one section that wouldn't be able to have access from Torchwood. Was that parcel 2? Is that what you were talking about?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. And
so
that
anything
has
going
been.
Oh, please keep going.
Sorry. So that was part of that lot was recently approved for a 3-lot partition, and part of that partition, there's a restriction on the plat that basically states that lot 2 can only have access across lot 3 to the south to Pacific Highway. And we required them to record an access easement across lot 3 to provide access to lot 2.
So if businesses are built there, everybody going there would have to get there from Highway 99, go all the way up. And then I'm trying to understand the full impact of the additional access through Torchwood, because I am pretty concerned about that really skinny, narrow entryway. So parcel 1, any buildings that are built on parcel 1, those are the additional traffic for right now. And then you're building a stub street on the west side of parcel 1, that street, so that someday when the property next to that, if/when that's developed, then it would go all the way through. Possibly. Right?
Correct.
Okay. I don't know the regulations around this, but I'm sure that the city engineer has very strict formulas for how he decides if that section needs calming traffic measures. But do we have any say in the matter? Can we help sway him or her one way or another?
Well, so there will be public comment period at the time of the development application. And so that is taken into account, when the staff report is written at the time of the development application. But it is subjective, it is a subjective criteria based on the city engineer's review of the traffic study as well as the surrounding neighborhood condition. But again, that would be addressed at the time of a development application.
Quick question. Are we talking about calming measures on Torchwood?
Correct, that is the question.
So I don't know if you guys have seen Torchwood, but I mean, it's a street, but the word alley is almost closer to, the width of that street. You're going to be going slow down it today. That's my comment, I guess.
And I think if development proposal comes in, those are definitely items that would be addressed as a part of that application, as Jeremy noted. It is narrower, at 74th and Torchwood as a part of an access plan and traffic impact analysis. All of those questions would be part of the application as well as a part of the public comment period. And so there would be essentially another process and evaluation as a part of that to make sure whatever those improvements are that are recommended meet the need from the traffic analysis standpoint and that are ADA safe and meet the adjacent landowners as well. So that's kind of, I think, a key aspect again, is that what that impact or that mitigation would be, that would be determined through the development application.
So would the application be considered in front of planning commissions or not? Agnes?
So if it is just a site development review, it would be a staff level review. And if the applicant elected to do a plan development, it would go to planning commission.
Okay. Well, I think previously we conditioned approval if the applicant will come back in front of the planning commission. So commissioners, do we have any more questions for the staff or applicant before we close for deliberation? I see none, so thank you, Agnes, Jeremy, and Alex. So now I'm closing the public process, and commissioners, your thoughts, comments?
President Hu, I'll start if that's okay.
Go ahead.
So I think I can't speak for everyone on the commission, but I think that we're mostly very much on board to support the growth of Tigard, and we are okay with increasing density to allow for more mixed-use housing and a variety of housing types to better accommodate the needs in Tigard. But I also think that sidewalks are really important and parking is always an issue. So I have a couple of concerns about this. But Hu, as you mentioned, if we can make the condition that we see the development plan so that we can help make sure that I believe that we have it in the code that certain standards have to be met. But this might be one of those situations where even though it technically checks all the boxes, if you go look at it in person, it just won't, it will be a negative impact, more of a negative impact than a positive impact on the surrounding existing neighborhood. So I think it's really important that we see this again once we have some more details about it. But other than that, I do generally support the concept. And I think that if in my dream world, there are modifications made to that street where it's expanded. I haven't actually visited there in like over a year, so I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly what the north side of Torchwood looks like, if it would be possible to expand the street. But yeah, I think more housing is welcome if we can make that street bigger. Obviously, I don't get to make that call exactly, but I just want to, I would love for our commission to be able to see this again before anything is
we can we can certainly recommend that to the city council if you want to make a motion later on. Okay, so let me
I'm
read.
probably too nervous to do that, but I'll let I'll let somebody else do it.
Commissioner Book would like that to be a recommendation to the city council that you come back to us. So if you can make a motion, she will appreciate it. Commissioner K7.
Yeah, thank you. I think my sentiments match Commissioner Brooks' sentiments. I've been looking at it through Google Earth. I didn't get a chance to go visit it, but I've been looking at it through Google Earth, and which is why I asked questions about, existing parking and how the safety, etc., works around that area. And then, yeah, we could potentially postpone that discussion till the development plans arrive. But how do we even think about widening that road if we have to make it safer, to add sidewalks like Commissioner Brooks was suggesting, because there are houses already built there. And so that's my bigger concern about rezoning and trying to add more traffic, etc. So I'm extremely nervous about this one. I'm not really sure if we should go ahead with this or not.
Thank you. Commissioner Quinones.
Yes, I think K7 took the words right out of my mouth. I'm very nervous about this as well. I have not visited the site, but knowing that there are already so many restrictions, and there is no plan or coming proposal on building. Why is this coming now to change the zoning? What I ask, just for us to think, what is the benefit of doing this now? Because if there's no development coming down the pipeline in the next year, then maybe we can focus on helping those residents with their road, or have something that goes to the city council that supports infrastructure for what is going on in that community. So that's my thought.
Thank you. Commissioner Miranda.
Thank you. Being new to the commission, I have some curious questions of why the applicant is wanting to make this change at this time. The benefit to them as moving their mixed use to commercial and then creating this basically isolated high density unit. From looking at Google Earth and Google Maps and seeing and hearing from the people who called in today, I can really understand the walkability crunch with how things were developed in that area. But from a developer perspective, having this very isolated parcel is not an incentive. It wouldn't make me want to build something there. It's a tough one. And it makes me concerned that then it will be undeveloped for a long period of time until it's more of a distressed property. So my curiosity is, and I don't understand if this would be explained to me at this time, since I wasn't here for the first meeting. the value to the owners as to why they are wanting to make this change now when they don't have or haven't expressed to have a development in the pipeline. It is curious to me, and it doesn't seem logical considering the constraints in the surrounding neighborhood. Thank you.
I think Tom is wanting to jump in, even though he's not commissioner, but go ahead. Go ahead,
Thank
Tom.
you. Yeah, first to answer that question, it's not unusual for lots to applications to come in for a zone change without a development. I think in this case, and the applicant can confirm it or not, but I think in this case, it's because the owner of the current property tends to do commercial development, and they are, through the partition and the zone, they are preparing the residential portion for sale to someone who would then come in and do a residential development, and then they can concentrate on commercial development on the south. So that is not that unusual. You have the information before you. I mean, the maximum number of units post zone change on the property is 43 residential units. That's 4 more than could currently be built right now without a planning commission hearing. I want to point out there's been some testimony about Torchwood Street, and I would like to point out Torchwood Street is on the southern side. I'm looking at an aerial. It looks fully developed. There's curbs, there's planter strip, there's a sidewalk along the southern side of Torchwood all the way around the Eyebrow cul-de-sac where the sidewalk ends on 74th. Yes, it's going to be some time before we will get the right-of-way to allow Torchwood to be fully developed on the north side, because there's a house actually that extends into what would be the right-of-way, or very close to. But as I look at the aerial, what's missing on the north side from the street is the parking, the curb, the planter strip, and the sidewalk locations. So the actual drive width that cars use on a fully developed street is there. It's 17, I measured, this GIS that I'm using isn't exactly 100% accurate, but it's around 17 feet from the parked car on the south side to the other side of the travel lane on the north side. So and that's, 10 foot, 11 foot travel lanes is not, so for a local service street that's going to serve the units to the south, Legacy Oakway, and these 43 units, that's not an unusual situation. It keeps speeds down, and we're kind of guessing at what the proposal for the residential might be. It could be an apartment. There could be other things. There's going to be access also to 99W for if there's, for instance, lower income folks to get to bus access. So, it's really a development when we can actually look at what's being proposed, what the traffic is going to be, and it's important, when are they leaving, when are they coming back, when are the peak times. And I would, again, just like to point out that the travel lane is probably not going to change too much, maybe a foot or 2 wider once the street is fully completed. And the Eyebrow looks like the Eyebrow is to full city standards. So there's a lot of concern, and I understand the concern. But when you start actually looking at the mechanics, and Jeremy can certainly talk to this much more than I, because I'm in no way a traffic engineer. But I think there is, plenty to work with here to allow for development to happen on the residential portion and make sure that everything is safe.
And Commissioner, who I know I'm a bit out of turn, but to answer Tom's question, one reason why we're asking, and Commissioner Miranda as well, reason why we're asking for the zone change is because we do have an affordable housing developer who is interested in that northern parcel. For their funding requirements, they need to have a parcel that is zoned at the time of their application for that site. And so we've done this process first, where we've done the partition and then the zone change, but that all needs to be in place before the application can be submitted for funding. So that, to answer your question, I apologize for being out of turn, but it's important to the conversation about why we're doing this and why that specific zoning is requested for particularly that northern parcel 1.
No problem, Alex. So Commissioner Jackson, do you have a question?
I have more of a sum up of my feelings. So if other people have questions, they should go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. It's time for question and comment. Actually, right now it's actually time for a comment. I forgot. We're not supposed to ask any more questions. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm going to break this down in a way that I can actually wrap my head around a little. So for me, kind of at the very highest level, I think it's a good thing to have more commercially zoned land and higher density residential land near to 99. On a closer level, I've split the decision into 2 chunks. One part of the chunk is lot 2 and 3, especially lot 2. There was a lot of concern from the feedback from the neighbors about lot 2 access through Torchwood, but it sounds like that's not a concern. For the residential area, the decision I'm hearing that we're being asked to make is, do we leave it zoned at its current density, or do we zone it at a higher density in a smaller area, as far as that impacts Torchwood? So for me, that 4-unit difference, whether that land develops at its current density or if it develops at the higher density in the smaller footprint, it's going to be tough on Torchwood, I think, but that 4-unit difference is not going to change how tough it is. I also think that extending Torchwood might actually help Legacy Oak Way, insofar as when I drove down that way, the only way to get out once you're down Torchwood is to go through Legacy Oak Way. So that's the only way to turn around. I think Legacy Oak Way will become less of a turnaround than it currently is if Torchwood is extended. So there's a ton of factors in this one that I had a hard time balancing in my brain, but my overall feeling is higher density makes sense, commercial makes sense, especially near 99. The unit difference is negligible, so I'm pretty firmly in support of it, I think.
Thank you, and thank you for your drive-through description. So next one will be Commissioner Dick. Do you still have more?
Yes, I had a comment more than anything. It almost sounds like a lot of the conversations got out into the weeds. This really is about the zoning piece and not changing roads at this time. And I understand the concerns for those neighbors. And I've only looked at it through Google Maps. I now, after listening to all of this, I'm going to make sure I go out to every single address. This was so amazing and enlightening about how this process all works. And I don't think the 4 units are going to create or break anything. It's obviously going to be developed one way or the other. So I would be for it if I could vote, but I just wanted to voice that, and also to say I understand the concerns of the neighbors on Torchwood, how devastating this must be for them to have this privacy, and now it's going to be gone. But so close to 99, it needs to be developed density-wise. And that's something that is going to be difficult for the neighbors, and I greatly understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Commissioner Watson on the screen. Go ahead. Your thought.
So I'm going to say yes, I also have sympathy for the folks living there and a change that is going to come. And in my roundabout way, my earlier question was about really, can this road be made to work? Did somebody sit down and, you know, not just the traffic counts, but can it be laid out in such a way that it works? And it sounds like that's true. I think I'm generally in support of it, especially in terms of the fairness to the property owner. The one thing I would just want to add is sort of as a designer, I'm kind of wondering why the parking is so bad for that adjacent housing project, and you know, just was there not enough parking? You know, why is it so difficult to park there? But I will let that go and just say I would probably be in support of the rezoning as long as the road works.
Thank you. And I see Commissioner Roberts. Do you have any comments?
Yes, I do. I am in favor of adding the lower cost housing. I'm in favor of increasing our commercial presence, you know, and bringing business to the city. This is the most vociferous community or neighborhood group we've had. You know, and despite the CPO4M's discussion, I think we did have there were like 300 people invited to the neighborhood meeting. Only a couple dozen showed up from when I looked at the meeting minutes. So I don't think it's an issue of them not having had an opportunity, although I am sympathetic to his plight electronically. My last thought is the owners have a pretty robust driveway coming off of 99W by the Key Bank. Why not just have them improve the driveway and grant an easement for the people that live in the housing area and give them one more piece of access?
Well, that means the commercial development will have access to Torchwood too. That means we don't want that.
I didn't mention Torchwood. If we're going to build units on the northern lot, they're going to need access to someplace, but that access could be via the extended driveway on I think it's the east side of the property that's already existing. Does that make sense?
So you want lot 1 to have access to 99, direct access to 99 as well?
Why not?
But that means the commercial area will have access to Torchwood.
I didn't say anything about bringing Torchwood into it.
Well, Torchwood will have to be open, I think.
Why?
Because right now it's just stop street right now. So that's the city plan. It has to be open.
So, but if they just have a long driveway, right now the commercial property has a long driveway on the east side, and that driveway could just go a little bit further into lot 1 and provide them with their access to 99. Now I realize when they come out to 99, they got to make a right. I mean, it's only from one direction, but that could be a relief in terms of the traffic.
The residential lot is not going to be owned by the commercial lot.
But we can require that they give them an easement and access. I don't know. Maybe that's an Agnes question.
Do you want to bring Agnes back? Agnes?
So so the partition that partitioned this lot into 3 lots has already been approved, and the approved partition includes the extension of Torchwood.
Ah.
So that's already been approved, and through that process is where we restricted the access for lot 2 to Pacific Highway.
So Torchwood's going to be extended, period.
Yes.
Okay. So much for my brilliant idea. I just figured there's a driveway, just use it, right? You know, it seemed pretty simple, but okay, thanks.
And ODOT had big concerns about Lot 1 having access onto Pacific Highway as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, it's always good to dream.
Yeah.
All right, so I think Commissioner K7, do you still have comments?
Well, some of you may have indirectly answered my clarifying question. So is the Torchwood, no commercial traffic on Torchwood? Is that what the current specification is?
Yeah, partial 2 and 3 cannot use it.
I see. Okay. That was my question. I think some of you answered it indirectly. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. So I see 3 commissioners still have their hands up. They already spoke. So do you still want to talk?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
My last comment was related to kind of the voting and support, because I think when it came down to, changing the zoning, we had one at the end of 2020 that was the library. It was that area. They submitted for the zone changing, and I think when you have zone changing and they follow all the rules and there's really not that noise from the community, it makes it easier. So I think I'm having a hard time because, and there was also another hearing when there was an individual that took trees down and the community came, but we couldn't really do anything because it had already been, that their move was already made and we couldn't really change that action. So I just feel like on paper, yes, it's a yes, but our hands are tied when it comes to how that development looks, because when a developer does come, how do we maintain their community responsibility to what is actually going on within Torchwood? So that's my last comment.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Commissioner Dick, do you have more comment?
I was disagreeing with her. That is a really valid point to consider when people vote, is the final outcome of what it will look like and how it will change the lives of all the residents in that area. And I think we should never forget about how their land use and how they thought it would be, and how someone else's plan may affect their lives on a daily basis. Something to consider.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so my thought is that I generally support the comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning. My original concern was relating to public facilities in light of all the comments by the neighbors. But Agnes, she must be a mind reader. Her slide says there's adequate public facilities, so I just have to take her word for it. So that's my comment. And so before we vote on the recommendation to the City Council, I just want to bring up the issue brought up by Mr. Long again about continuance. As Tom said, that even if we grant the continuance, we will not be repeating this whole thing again. And the person calling Jeff after that, he testified that he was able to access this meeting just fine. He had no issue. So I'm really sorry that Mr. Long had issue, but my opinion is that I don't think we should grant a continuance. but it's up to you. If you want to, somebody can make a motion. If not, then we just move on to a motion for recommendation to the City Council. I think there's an approval condition in the staff report, and Commissioner Brooke also want to ask the City Council to have this case brought back in front of the Planning Commission again when there's a development proposal. So we can also ask the City Council to do that. So,
hey, President Hu?
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Could I ask an educational question before we go into voting? Maybe
Sure.
Tom or Agnes can help. So
Yeah.
what bad things happen if we do grant continuance? This is just for my own understanding. Is there anything bad in giving a continuance?
It would just cause unnecessary delay, I think.
There's no hurry, right? There's nobody waiting to develop or do it.
Well, Agnes, I think the City Council may be waiting.
Well, and actually,
So there is oh, go ahead, Alex.
I was going to say, if I can jump in, from our affordable housing developer, they are on a timeline for submitting an application. So if this were continued, they would miss their window, and so that's one reason to think about that. We are, given the delays with fires, everything in the fall, we're kind of been pushed up to the end of our rope, if you will, in terms of schedule, and so if we do miss that, we're going to be challenged to meet the application deadlines.
Okay.
Thank you.
So is there any other repercussions if we don't provide continuance because of the request from the citizens group that we need to consider?
I mean, their group also have a chance in front of the City Council to make a presentation because we are making a recommendation to the City Council. We're not making the final decision. So they still have a chance to present their
Excellent
case.
point. Excellent point. Thank you. Excellent.
Yeah. So, commissioners, any brave soul want to make a motion? Come on. Don't make me call on you.
Hey, look at that. I have a motion for you.
Oh, great. I haven't heard from you all day, but you go ahead.
I was listening to the discussion. All my questions got answered, so I was fine. But I would like to move for approval of the application and adoption of the findings and conditions of the approval contained in the staff report based on the testimony received. Now, I don't have the case number, but I think that's the proper motion.
Well, thanks for your attempt, but we are making a recommendation to the City Council. We're not approving this. So
options for motions. I'm sorry.
No problem. And the case number, do you have it in front of you? We do need that. So it's a CPA 2020-0001 and ZON 2020-0001.
All right, should I try this again here?
Go ahead. So use the one that's making a recommendation.
You get 3 strikes. So I think she had popped up the case numbers there. Somebody had popped them up. So where'd they go now? Are they in the chat? There she is. Thank you, Agnes. You guys are working with me. All right, I move the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to City Council of application CPA 2020-00001 and ZON 2020-0001 and adoption of the findings and conditions of approval contained in the staff report and based on the testimony received.
So does the condition of approval require the applicant to submit their development application in front of the planning commission, or
Not how I would move it, no.
no? Okay.
And it depends upon whether it's a PUD, right?
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So the motion in front of us is for a recommendation to the City Council of application CPA 2020-0001 and ZON 2020-00001, and adoption of the finding and conditional approval containing the staff report and based on the testimony received. So that's the motion made by Commissioner Shook. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Those opposed, say aye.
Or nay.
Oh, nay. Anybody opposed? Okay. Oh, we have Commissioner Book opposed. Anybody abstain?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye. K7.
Who was that?
K7.
We have two.
K7 and Alexandria Quinones.
So
You are abstaining?
Correct.
So we have one opposed and two abstain. Is that enough to pass? The rest will say yes, I think. So we have.
Tom,
so we have 8 commissioners. 1 say no and 2 abstain. So we still have 5 say yes. So yeah, so it's proof. 5 to 1 to 2.
Right.
Okay, so motion approved. Thank you.
Squeaked by.
All we need is 5. Thank you. So other business. Mr. McGuire. Tom?
Yes, good evening. Much like last time we met, I don't have any other business for tonight. Sometimes I talk about upcoming cases, but we're a much fuller schedule this winter into spring than we've had in the past, and Doreen has been doing a great job of keeping up with the rolling calendar. So I don't know if there are any questions about the rolling calendar or anything that's upcoming, but we will continue with briefings on our full slate of major legislative projects, and we're seeing more quasi-judicial cases coming our way.
Good.
One thing I can bring up, I have not talked to folks on the city council or the city manager yet. We're in the process of hiring a new city manager. We usually once a year, we have a joint meeting between the planning commission and the city council. I've seen some commissions are still doing that. Some commissions they have to have those discussions. I don't think we did last year because of COVID. So I guess I'd be interested in the planning commission's level of interest in having a joint meeting with city council. Often we do it around a specific topic, and unless planning commissioners have a topic, I haven't seen one on the horizon yet. So I guess I'm asking the question.
Yeah, we can definitely talk among ourselves and dig up ideas and see if we have a topic we want to discuss with the city council. Commissioner Watson, you have something to add?
You're on mute.
There's so many buttons. Sorry, Tom, I am changing the subject a little bit, and I can wait if necessary, but I just wanted to, wondering if it would be a good idea to have like a slide at the end of the presentation with the permit numbers and the, like, assuming that we follow the city's recommendations, that, what is the move? What are we proposing to, so that it'll make it easier for all of us who don't have those things memorized. And we're on our own laptops and phones and things that aren't very easy to navigate quickly and find that information.
Yeah, usually we do. Agnes probably had it at the end of her slide presentation. We didn't jump back into the slide presentation because you have to, under COVID at this, this remote, she would have to take over the screen to put that back up. But I think instead she elected to put it in the chat. She put the numbers in the chat.
Oh.
Yeah, normally when we're in the city hall, it's up on the big screen.
Yes. But yeah,
we could probably remember for hearing to. I'll try to remember to get the staff person to put that back up for when we get to the point of a motion.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be much appreciated. Thank you.
I believe Doreen circulated a proposed motion language earlier today too. So.
Yeah, it's just like I had trouble when I tried to log in. And I don't want to go into that, but it's just like there's little things that kind of made me late, and has crashed, and I had to restart and that kind of stuff, and then it's just, it would be great if we could just we know what the motion needs to be, so just if we had the particular motion up, without having to have modifying language and that kind of stuff, unless we wanted it would be great.
Okay, we'll do that.
To answer your question, I would be interested in a joint meeting. We have new council members, we have new planning commission members. I don't have a burning topic in mind though, although today was certainly one of our more vigorous discussions. So, but I think we need a more generic type of topic to, something maybe future oriented where we could look at how we engage with each other, something like that.
This is Councilor Shaw too, and I just put in the chat that I can't speak for the whole city council, but I too would welcome a conversation, a joint conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was a really good point about the new members on council, new members on planning commission. It would be good to have you together. I'm wondering, do we take the chance to wait until summer to see if we're in a situation where we have vaccines and maybe we're back to be able to meet together and talk about maybe having a joint commission council meeting maybe in September? Or do you feel a need to do something sooner, getting a thumbs up? And then as far as topics, we could go for a more generic topic like strategic plan implementation thoughts, or if folks have specific ideas, interest areas, we can talk about that too.
I would just add that yes, I am interested, and it seems like it would be a natural thing to have it revolve around, like you said, the strategic plan. In my mind, I thought I was going to meet the new city manager and maybe one of the Washington Square or one of the other kind of planning type meetings. But yes, that would make a lot of sense to me.
Commissioner Jackson?
I was just going to add that I would also be very much in support of that, but I would also advocate. So I've been to one or two of the joint meetings before, and at least I personally was not terribly prepared for them. So if maybe we could set aside some time in our hearing before that to kind of talk amongst ourselves and kind of prep ourselves as far as just the topic, I would very much appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right. I think that's it. Thank you, everybody.
So, just to close that, I will put some more thought to that, maybe come up with some topic ideas, and then talk to, well, I didn't hear a objection or a strong opinion for sooner rather than later. So I think I may try to shoot for a August or September joint commission meeting, and we'll cross our fingers and hope that we're all able to actually see each other in person by then. So, and then I'll keep you updated.
Thank you.
Okay.
Doreen, you have something to add?
Yes, I don't know if I missed it or not, Tom, but did you mention that there's a meeting next week? Next Monday? Oh, you did?
No.
Okay, the Washington
No.
Square. What?
I did.
You did?
I did not mention that
Did
specifically.
not. Okay, yeah, that's going to be on the Washington Square update in River Terrace too. So those are two briefings that are just right next week.
Yeah, good point about that, and that's an unusual
It's unusual.
time. Yeah.
Thank you, Doreen, for keeping us all organized.
My pleasure.
Not just in response to that. I was going to say that anyway, just throughout the months. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. And Jeanette, it's nice to meet you.
Likewise, Doreen.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming in. Very nice.
All right. I guess that's the end of the meeting. It's adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Bye-bye.
Oops. Take that hand down.
Thanks, Keelan. See you, Doreen.
Thanks.
It was kind of unusual, Tom, the way that it was. Are you there? He just left. Keelan, are you there?